Hi, today is Friday, April 21st, 2017, and this is A Swede Speaks. I would like to talk a little about how to understand Sweden and Swedish people. And I actually think we could talk about something that I refer to as Swedish illnesses. And I have identified, well, 4 of them that are pretty common in Sweden. And those 4 are conformism, modernism, jealousy, and welfare statism. And first I wanted to do a video about all of them, but I realized when I started writing down notes and thinking about it that would make for a very long video. So in this video I'm going to talk about the Swedish conformism. And I am not an expert on medieval Sweden, so I won't talk much about that. Actually, I won't talk about that at all. But I could talk about Sweden from 1521 and onwards. In 1521, Gustaf Eriksson of the noble family Vasa started his uprising against the king of Sweden, Christian II, who was also the king of Denmark and the king of Norway. And most Swedes would consider him a Danish king who also happened to be king of Sweden, which I think is basically correct, because Copenhagen was the power center in Scandinavia, and the king was sitting there because of the Kalmar Union. But this all ended in 1521. Gustaf Eriksson managed to become regent, and 2 years later he was elected king. And with him, when he was King Gustaf I, or Gustavus I, it used to be in English, now I think they're saying Gustaf I, came the Lutheran Orthodoxy. And I like a lot of Lutheran theology, so it's not about that. Although I also might have one or two things that I could object to. But what Gustaf I did, what he actually did, he decided, when Sweden turned Lutheran, and for him it wasn't a theological decision, it was a political decision, because he didn't want to have a power competition with the Roman Catholic Church. So Sweden turned Lutheran, the churches were nationalized because the church turned into a part of the state, which actually is against Luther's teachings, but anyway. And Gustaf I decided that the priests in the Swedish parishes should read up, they should tell the people what the government was thinking, what the king was thinking. And I mean, this was sort of to raise the people, to get their thinking in line with the thinking of the state. And Sweden soon turned into a Lutheran Orthodoxy. There was some things going on with the sons of Gustaf I and with some fighting between Lutherans and Roman Catholics, but after that was settled, and this was settled around the year 1600, and by 1600 Gustaf I was dead and buried, but his descendants were still ruling Sweden. Sweden became Lutheran Orthodox, and this meant that Roman Catholicism was outlawed. The only ones who were allowed to be Roman Catholics were people working at foreign embassies. Swedish subjects were not allowed to participate in Catholic masses at these embassies. Some did it anyway. So the Swedes were shaped to think alike. They were taught to think alike, and if you would convert to Roman Catholicism, you were sentenced to the death penalty. You wouldn't be executed. Instead, they would change the penalty to deportation for life. So they were Swedish noblemen who went to Poland because of this. But anyway, and this goes on through Swedish history. So when we come to a little more modern times, the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution, all of this stuff, you still had this way of thinking in Sweden which was very conformist. So the Swedish authors of the late 1800s and early 1900s, and I don't necessarily sympathize with all the things they wrote, with all their ideas, probably not actually. But the thing is, I could just mention 2 Swedish authors from that period. August Strindberg, who I think is famous all over the world, and Hjalmar Söderberg, who is a little more of a national celebrity. And he was probably not a good person, but that's not my point now. Both of them lived abroad for long periods of their lives because they couldn't function as creative souls in Sweden. And Hjalmar Söderberg actually emigrated to Denmark and died in Copenhagen. While August Strindberg, he lived abroad for long periods of time, but he eventually settled in Sweden again and died in Sweden. And this is like just an historical background for what happened. And if we go a little more further in time, we could take the time when my childhood and youth. The moderate party of Sweden, well, sort of the conservatives. When I grew up, you shouldn't be moderate if you came from the working class. Then you were, close to ostracized. I mean, you wouldn't lose your job over it, but people would look at you funny. They would tell you were a bad person, that moderates were really nasty people. I mean, it was really not socially acceptable in large parts of the Swedish population to correspond to this party or to vote for this party. That was the idea, was that only rich people vote for this party, and the rest ones, they have nothing to gain from their policies, because we are all social democrats now, and we just shouldn't touch them. Bad people. And actually that didn't really change until I think sometime in the early 2000s, 2006 or something like that, when the moderates managed to make a left-wing turn. They managed to sort of steal the Social Democrats' clothes and win on their issues. And then you had the Sweden Democrats instead. And this will be my final point of this shortish video, that today the conformism says that you have to stay within the opinion corridor. There's been an opinion corridor in Sweden all the time since the 1500s, as you can see. And you're not supposed to criticize Islam, because then you're a racist. I missed the whole lecture on, or the whole proof, all the proof of why Islam would be a race. Race is a blurry concept, but you know what I mean. But anyway, you're not supposed to criticize Islam. You shouldn't criticize the Sweden's migration policy, because then you're a bad person. And this is just a short overview of what Swedish conformism looks like in this certain area. Of course, since I'm usually commenting on politics, you will get the political implications of this. And this is, and that's what it is. And I hope that Swedes will at some point free themselves from this conformism, because it's not helping Sweden or the Swedes at all. But this is just like a short explanation. And that's what I have to say about this right now. I would like to thank the people who are supporting this channel through prayers, through Patreon, through PayPal, and also the people pointing out ideas for videos, ideas for what kind of technology I need. And I will invest in a new webcam next week, as I told you in my last video, or my latest video. And I hope that will improve things. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. Please share my videos on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, wherever. If you have something to say, feel free to comment. If you like this video, please like it. And I would also like to encourage you to support this channel. And I will include all the necessary information in the information box below. This is A Swede Speaks. Have a nice day.